There we
Well,
so close. It wouldn't be a presentation without a fluke. Okay, I'm going to share my screen again. That was a lovely intro, though.
thanks, Becca.
So thanks again for joining us. You're tuning into the button-up presentation, and the first thing that we're going to go over tonight is what is buttoning up. We're going to talk about why you would want to button up, why you'd want to weatherize your home, how to get started. I'm going to then speak to income eligible weatherization, which is the free weatherization available to all Vermonters who are income eligible. I'm going to give you some tips and tricks if you're a renter or a landlord, and then we're going to open it up to Q&A. So thank you so much for joining. This is the slide that I use every single time I present on button up and weatherization, and that is my insulation, air sealing, sweater and windbreaker slide. So if you are like me and you're wearing a really chunky knit sweater right now, maybe a cable knit sweater, your sweater, if you're going outside or you're in a colder place, it's acting as your insulation. It's keeping your body heat in. And that's just like what you would experience in your home, where you have insulation in your home, attic, basement, walls, to actually be able to keep that heat in. But as any Vermonter knows, if you're going outside, this sweater is great until there's any bit of wind. And then you get through all the holes in those cable knits, you're going to get some wind, you're going to get some air loss. So to prevent heat loss, to prevent air loss, not only do we want the insulation, we want the air sealing, and that's our windbreaker. So for air sealing, you're going to make sure that you have all the holes removed in the exterior to interior. So anytime that there could be cold air that's getting in or getting out, that's your windbreaker. That's your air sealing. When you combine those two things together, you get comfort, savings, all the good stuff of weatherization. Oh, and actually, I should add one other thing. I heard a really good tip at one of our Weatherization Wednesdays last week, where in addition to thinking about that sweater concept, let's say you've got a little bit of unraveling in your sweater, you've got a hole in your sweater, that might represent your insulation. It's really important that if you're just going to plug that hole up or you're going to sew it up, that you might actually be affecting the integrity of the entire sweater, using that analogy, or the entire insulation that you have going on in your attic or basement. So it's really important to think about your insulation as one system. And we learned a bit about that on one of our Weatherization Wednesdays with health and safety, because what they run into is when folks might fix one piece of insulation or a section of insulation, when in reality, there might be larger problems that you'd want to have a contractor come and look at. So we'll get into that a bit later, but wanted to just upgrade my sweater analogy there. Now, when we talk about buttoning up, we're talking about buttoning up to prevent things like what the stack effect causes. So this is what it looks like in your home. And because of the principle that as warm air rises, you're going to be losing it out the top of your home anytime you have an air leak or a hole. So you're imagining that you're sucking in that cold air actually from your basement, from your bottom floors, from under your flooring. If you don't have a basement, that kind of lower area, you're sucking up that cold air. So you're actually cooling down your home, and then while you're heating it, and then the hot air is actually leaving out the top, and that's called the stack effect. So that leak, actually that air movement, reduces the effectiveness of your insulation. So it can actually feel like a breeze. And for many Vermonters, they might feel like on the sides here, let's say there's a window over here, you'd actually feel the breeze or the draft where a window might be, or where you might have a door. And you think, gosh, I've got really leaky windows, I got really leaky doors. When in reality, it's actually a draft coming from the stack effect, where you're having that hot air, that cold air being sucked up, heated, and then released out the top. So some of the most common leaks that we're trying to prevent include your fan vent, attic hatches, chimneys, recessed lighting, any kind of outlet, basements, joints, corners, places where the wall meets the floor, just about any place you think that air could get through. That's where we want to prevent leaks, because the stack effect will just continue to have a greater impact on your insulation and actually sending that energy and that heat out the top of your roof. If you've seen like a cold winter night and your neighbor has their snow packed on tight on their roof, no movement, and then your roof is completely bare because the snow is melted, that's an example of needing some insulation on the top of your roof, or in your attic, so that it doesn't rise at the top of your roof. So some common places that you'd want to see some insulation are where you would prioritize that is your attic, your ceiling, rim joints, basement walls, foundation, all of the common places. And that's where you're thinking about like your windbreaker. You know, this is wrapping around all those places that commonly we have, we want to prioritize insulation, air sealing. So now that you've got a bit of the building science, you know a tad bit more about the stack effect, and you've got a great analogy in your toolkit, why the heck would you want to air seal and insulate? There's 4 main reasons. The first one that I hear from most Vermonters is that they want to save money. And a comprehensive weatherization project can save you anywhere from $500 to $800 per year in fuel costs. And that's just the average. Historically, households save about 15% after they've completed a project. So when you think about your current spending on fuel, I'll use our home as an example. When we bought our home here in White River Junction, we walked into a home that they were paying $3,000 a year on fuel oil for. And they actually weren't even using the second floor of the house. They were staying on the first floor. So when we weatherized, we cut that cost down to where we're only paying around $1,000 a year for fuel. And that's kind of the peak when we had a colder winter. So the cost that we're paying through our home energy loan, which we'll talk about more, is actually less monthly than what we would have paid if we hadn't weatherized. And we got all the other benefits in addition to saving money. So we're saving energy, which is a value because if you're thinking about wasting fuel, our household heat actually makes up about 42% of all statewide energy use. And then 78% of homes use fossil fuel for heating. So if you're thinking about how you can impact energy on a state level, on a national level, one small thing that we can all do is consider weatherization. Now, next up is increasing comfort. So if you've got a part of your home, and I make this pitch every single time I do one of these webinars, if you've got a room in your home, or you're like us and you move into a home and they don't use the second floor in the winter because it's too cold, I'll just say you do not need to do that. You can take advantage of every place in your home. You can have an office that isn't freezing cold in the winter. You can use that side dining room if you weatherize. So I want to just put that plug out there that weatherizing can increase comfort and actually open up spaces in your home that maybe you weren't using on a seasonal basis. It also will make the places you already stay in better temperature. So more consistent temperature. If you have a really hot part of your home, same thing, weatherization will benefit you by keeping temperatures in check, both in the cooler winter months and the hotter summer months. And then last, but certainly not least, and one that we certainly work with our regional planning commissions on, is how do we reduce carbon pollution? How do we actually have less fuel that we're burning so that then there's fewer pollutants that end up in our atmosphere that contribute to climate change? So a scary statistic, but as of 2015, 28% of Vermont's greenhouse gas emissions actually came from heating our buildings. That's second largest, only behind transportation. So if you're thinking about how you can impact climate change, weatherization is a great place to start. Okay, now that I've convinced you, you know the building science, you are 100% in on the value of buttoning up. I want to tell you a bit about how you can get started. There's three paths that are most commonly used to weatherize homes. The first is income eligible weatherization, which is free weatherization assistance that's available statewide. For your area, for Addison County, you'd be looking to connect with CVOEO, who is your weatherization agency. The eligibility is if you fall at or below 80% of the median income of your county or your region. We can pull those up if anyone has questions. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later too. The next way you could get started, the best bang for your buck, that's comprehensive weatherization. That's home performance with Energy Star. And you would work with an efficiency excellency network contractor. They're qualified contractors who have all of the training and information that you would need to get the job done correctly, also taking into account things like health and safety. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the DIY rebate. So if you're a handy Vermonter, there are some projects that are eligible for the DIY rebate, which is $100. If you do any 3 of 6 eligible projects, you can actually get that $100 rebate. So if you're considering the home performance with Energy Star project route, or you're not sure if you could qualify for income eligible weatherization, but you know the upfront cost, that's a concern for you, there are very low interest financing options available to help pay for projects. For some households that qualify for the moderate income incentive, you could pay as little as no interest or a very low interest rate. That's what we did with our home. It was very easy to do. We found that it was easier than getting a car loan in process wise. So if you've gotten a car loan before, I can guarantee you that the home energy loan process is just as smooth, maybe even simpler process wise. And between incentives and financing, you could pay for a comprehensive weatherization project on average for about $60 a month. So that's pretty good if you're cutting your fuel costs and gaining some comfort at the same time. I will say DIY projects are not eligible for the home energy loan, but other projects, like let's say you're wanting to do weatherization, tighten up that home, and you want a heat pump, you can combine that into this loan. Or maybe you're thinking about a pellet stove, or changing out a wood, you want a furnace of some sort, or some new appliances that are energy efficient. All of that could be wrapped into the home energy loan. And we do that with participating lenders, the Vermont State Employees Credit Union, Opportunities Credit Union, and then an organization called NeighborWorks of Western Vermont, who actually work on a program called the Heat Squad, who also do energy audits. So I can talk about that more if you have any questions about energy audits. Nope, there we go. Next up, I wanted to tell you a bit about that DIY rebate I mentioned and what are some eligible projects that you could get $100 for. So if you do any 3 of the following 6 listed here, you could get that $100 rebate. It's important to know what is a DIY project, what isn't a DIY project. And while these are a great start, I highly recommend if you're going to go one step further, you're thinking about air sealing and insulation, good time to call a contractor. So I want to dig in a bit more on that income eligible weatherization piece, and then we'll continue on with the renters and landlords. And then folks, it's question and answer time. So if you've got your questions, feel free to put them in the chat now, put them in the Q&A, or again, we'll catch you at the end. To spend a bit more time on income eligible weatherization, the weatherization assistance program is determined based on income through your regional weatherization agency. Again, for us in Addison, that's CVOEO. And you can find their number right here. 800 545-1084. Joy DeCoster is the go-to guy over there who runs the program. If you're considering if you're saying, hey, I've called in the past, I've looked into this, I'm not sure if I qualify, or I heard the wait list was really long. That's something I hear a lot about. We're in a different place now than we were a few years ago. If you were told, 3-5 years ago that the wait list was really long and you didn't even want to kind of head down the process because of some of the paperwork, I'd say give it another try, because the wait list is exceptionally short statewide. They're actually looking for folks. One of the things that is different about the Button Up campaign this year is, in previous years, they said, don't market the free weatherization too much because we have such a long wait list. This year, we were told explicitly, go out, get some folks, let them know about these services. So whether it's you or someone weatherization assistance is a great opportunity for you if you're income eligible. So the next steps you can take, this is a summary of the options. I would recommend, if you're not sure where to start, give Efficiency Vermont a call. We have a great customer support team. They can walk you through the steps and actually talk you through what your interests are and the different eligibilities that you might have for programs. You could also schedule a virtual home energy visit. They're totally free. They're not a full audit like you would see from an organization like Heat Squad or through a contractor. They're really just kind of the top high level things that you could do to benefit your home. There's also the Find a Contractor page. I hear from many Vermonters that they're trying to get a contractor to do these projects, but they're just having a tough go. Contractors are busy. And we're oftentimes asked, when is the best time to call a contractor? Well, the best time to call a contractor, the joke was last week. So if you're thinking about doing a project, even if it's just a start, I highly recommend getting on the line with a contractor, and you can find an Efficiency Excellency Network contractor through the webpage just by putting in your zip code and the type of project that you're interested in. Last but certainly, if you can certainly call your community action agency, CVOEO, and even if we got a Burlington resident who slipped through the cracks tonight, you can certainly call BED. There's special programs for Burlington Electric Department customers separate from Efficiency Vermont as well. Okay, renters and landlords. So if you're a renter, you might think, gosh, I don't think I can weatherize. I'm not sure that there's any outlet for me to lower my fuel bills or to lower the cost of that it is to heat my home, to heat my apartment. So there are a few things you can do. The first is one that I love. You could set your temperature lower by 7 to 10 degrees. That does make a difference. If you did that for 8 hours a day, like when you're sleeping, or if you are one of the lucky few that leaves your home when you go to work, you could lower it for that period of time. There's also some smart thermostat rebates, and some of them can be done without needing to do any kind of invasive work that a landlord might say, oh, I prefer you not to. But at the bare minimum, lowering that temperature down 7 to 10 degrees for on average 8 hours can save you a substantial amount. Next up, you can certainly switch to LED bulbs. We've actually got some free energy saving kits through Efficiency Vermont that do have some LED light bulbs in them, as well as some other goodies that are some efficiency treats. But I do want to mention the LED bulbs here. It's definitely higher quality lighting. And my tip that I have been known to mention is that you probably do have a bulb somewhere in your house or apartment that is not an LED. I know most of us think we got them all. My request is you check your hood range, which is that light underneath or that's above your oven. Something that we discovered was that we had been using our hood range as like our nightlight. So when you go downstairs, you get a glass of water, you can see what you're doing in the kitchen. That was not an LED. So we're leaving on like the one bad bulb in the whole place all night. Little did we know. So check all those secret spots because you might just have a bulb that is not an LED. Next up, cleaning. So I know it's not the spring, but removing dust buildup on your refrigerator or your heating systems can help the systems run more efficiently. And it also means that you're improving your air quality and the potential safety around those pieces of equipment. So vacuum out those vents. My special tip is exhaust fans. If you can, vacuum out those exhaust fans in your bathroom. It is nasty work, but once you do it, you'll understand the value of cleaning out those vents. Other than that, you could prepare your windows with weather stripping. You could reduce your electricity bill by unplugging some of those idle loads, or since we're in Halloween month, the vampire loads, which drain power when you're not using them, like a TV or a monitor. And then last, but certainly not least, heavy curtains. Getting some heavy shades. In the summer, you could close those curtains during the day to keep the house cool. And then in the winter, do exactly the opposite. Use the sun when it's needed, and then keep out the cold by closing them when that makes sense for you. So other things that you can do as a renter, you could have income eligible weatherization done even as a renter. You don't have to be a homeowner to qualify for those. There's also for single family residencies, let's say you're renting out a single family home, there is comprehensive weatherization services. You could get the DIY rebate for, let's say, weather stripping your windows or doing some insulation around piping, for example. And then last, let's say you're in a multifamily unit. You can recommend to your landlord, hey, you heard about this building performance program. That's a great one that we work with on the Efficiency Vermont side to get permission from your landlord to move forward with some larger comprehensive projects. And there are incentives out there. So definitely a good thing to recommend. And then that's it. That's the whole thing, guys. I'd love to take your questions now. I see we've got someone put a note in the chat. And as we move to questions, I'll just say, Button Up Vermont is a statewide outreach campaign, and we work with a lot of different partners. So if you're wondering about, let's say, an older home, we've got the Preservation Trust of Vermont on here. If you're wondering about education and schools and how you can do outreach there, window dressers, tons of different groups that we work with. We also work with, as I said before, all of our local community action agencies like your own. We work with all the regional planning commissions like the one who's sponsoring us tonight. And that's it. So I'll stop sharing my screen and we can answer some questions. Okay. I see our first question, and feel free again, if you want to raise your hand, go ahead and do that if you want to ask that question, or you're more than welcome to put them in the chat. But I'll start with Spencer. So Spencer says, do window dressers self-made window inserts count as the DIY $100 rebate along with two others? Is the $100 per project of the total rebate for completing all three items? Fabulous question, Spencer. If you get a window dressers insert, which if folks are familiar with window dressers, it's a community program that Energy Committee statewide, yours, for example, there's a local one. Maddie actually mentioned to me before this, that's going to be happening, a local build. Window dressers inserts go in, they're custom built and measured for your window. And if you do have 3 window dressers units that you put into your home, you certainly qualify for the $100 rebate. If you have one and then you do 2 other eligible projects, also eligible, same thing, get 2 window inserts, do another eligible project. That is a qualified thing to do. If you have any questions about that, for example, if you're not paying for the inserts, please reach out directly to me. I can put my info in the chat, and we're working closely with window dressers for Vermonters who qualify for their low income subsidy, for example. Those are folks who wouldn't actually pay for the insert. So yeah, Maddie, is there anything you want to mention about that?
Yeah, I guess we should mention that Bristol has a window dressers event coming up the 4th through the 9th of November. And so if you wanted to volunteer or order inserts, now is a great time. And if you would like window dressers to come to your community, please reach out to me or to the organization itself so we can set something up. And they would love to bring more window inserts to your town.
Nice. Yeah. Okay. We have tons of time for questions. So if folks are thinking they want to ask one, feel free. Again, raise your hand, put it in the chat. Or I can always come up with a question or two. Unless, I don't know, Maddie, you got any burning questions out of
Can you tell us a little bit more about NeighborWorks?
Totally. So NeighborWorks of Western Vermont is a organization that serves the majority of our state. I work really closely with them through the Button Up Vermont campaign, and they run something called the Heat Squad, all caps HEAT. It's an acronym, and then squad. And they provide low cost energy audits. So a full audit, unlike a virtual home energy visit. Where with a virtual home energy visit, high level, with an energy audit, you're getting a blower door test, you're getting a prioritized list, and they'll also help connect you with a contractor. So if you're not sure where to start, or you got an energy audit like 10 years ago, 5 years ago, getting an updated energy audit through Heat Squad is a great step. And they've also got some discounted audits depending on where you are. So always look into that. Right now, I believe it's $150 for an audit, which compared to the normal average cost of like $400 to $500 is pretty good. And I recommend them through the Button Up program because they are a great resource if you're just not sure where to start and you want information to get the ball rolling. Oh, and Ruth, you're very welcome. Sure. And if they're, okay. And we've got another question. Can we list again the financial partners? The only one I caught was BSCCU. Okay. I'm going to share that slide one more time because that's a great question. Let's see. Can I make the magic happen and do? How? Oh. Thanks for your patience. There we go. So the correct, thanks, Spencer. The first one is BSCCU, the Vermont State Everyone's Credit Union, formerly Employees Credit Union. Opportunities Credit Union, which I believe is up in Chittenden County. I don't have an Opportunities Credit Union in my area, but they, I believe, are kind of in the Chittenden County, Burlington area. And then NeighborWorks of Western Vermont, they also work with us to do the home energy loan. VSCCU is who we worked through on a personal note, was great. We were already members of VSCCU and it worked out to just call directly, and they coordinated actually with our contractor. So if you're thinking about how to involve them in a project, if you're going through an efficiency excellency network contractor, someone in the EEN, there's a good chance that they've already worked through the process of the home energy loan with other customers. So if you flag that in that first conversation saying, hey, I'm really thinking that we want to do financing for this project, they'll probably be able to connect you right away. Or go ahead and call VSCCU, Opportunities Credit Union, NeighborWorks first and get a gauge of what you would likely be doing for a project. They will work directly with you, and a benefit of the financing, again, is that you can bundle multiple projects. Something I didn't mention, but is very important for older home stock. is that 50% up to 50% of the value of the loan can be used on health and safety improvements. So if you're someone who knows that you've got pests, you've got mold or mildew or asbestos or remediation that you might need to do of some of those older, more toxic forms of building materials, highly recommend the home energy loan, because then you know that you can take care of that work up to 50% again of the value of a total max $20,000 loan. And I didn't mention this in the presentation, but there are some programs, some financing through USDA. USDA has one for rural Vermonters, and from my understanding, every county in Vermont besides Chittenden automatically qualifies as rural under their definition of rural. So you should be all set if you want to check out that information. And I know that they also have a program around materials. So if you are thinking you want to do it on your own, I would take a look there as well. Although I would recommend a contractor in most instances. I always got to put that plug in there.
So I have another question for you, Becca.
Yeah.
My family is one of those do-it-yourself families, but we can have that debate offline maybe.
Mine too.
So one of the questions that I hear a lot is about heat pumps and whether or not you can replace all of your heating with a heat pump. Do you want to tackle that for us?
Sure. That's a fabulous question, especially when we think about weatherization, because the key to having a heat pump is also having a tight home. So heat pump technology, that's a form of not resistance electric heating, but actually moving heat from a heat source to a heat sink. So in resistance heating, which is not as efficient as heat pumps, you're actually changing from cold to hot, but with a heat pump, very efficient, and it's sucking out the little bit of heat that's actually left in the heat source that they're pulling from. There's traditionally an outdoor unit and an indoor unit, which you might see like the strips of an indoor unit up kind of in the corner somewhere in a home, or they also have kind of a box one that you can put in that looks like more like a space heater. But that I wanted to mention that, Maddie, because what we hear from a lot of Vermonters is, well, once you get to a certain temperature, aren't they less efficient? And that's true, because they're not converting the cold to hot, and they're actually pulling out the little bit that's left through the refrigerant process that heat pumps have. They do become less efficient as you get to those negative degrees. So we don't recommend at Efficiency Vermont that if you're getting a heat pump that you'll rip out your furnace or you stop having another source of heating, but instead use it as a supplement. And for many Vermonters, heat pumps can be a full source of heating and cooling in a tight home, so a fully weatherized home. And for those very, very cold winter days, like those -17 and below days, yes, they will run less efficiently and they will need more energy to run, but you can use them for the majority of the other days. Another point I'd make is that so many Vermonters get a heat pump for the heating, and then they love it for the cooling. So if you have air conditioner units that just stick in your window, or you are opening your windows to keep cool, as most Vermonters like to say they do, you are actually going to love your heat pump because the cooling is so nice. And as we get into more extreme temperatures in the summer, I think it's going to become even more important, especially for older Vermonters. Trying to think my other pitch. They're cost comparable with wood heating, but of course you don't have to cut any wood. So that's a nice benefit. Love heat pumps. Okay, let's see. Any other questions? Or, we can always wrap up a little early. I'll give it a minute, but Maddie, thanks so much for having us and for hosting from the RPC perspective. It's great to have a local contact. So if folks are on this webinar and you're thinking, I haven't checked in with my RPC lately. I want to see what they're up to. I know that you have a great website. So certainly check that out if you're on the webinar.
Yeah, thanks for the pitch, Becca. We just updated our website. We're very proud of it.
It looks good. Well, thanks, folks who stuck around till the end here. I think we can wrap up for the night, and I'll make sure to get the recording over to you, Maddie. And if you have friends who were not able to join us tonight, you can share it with them. Cool.
Great. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone.
Night. Bye-bye.